I'm gonna admit something. I think I'm the realest rapper ever lived. If I keep it a buck with you, besides Tupac, I really believe that. I've been rapping professionally for 30 years. I've lied in almost 95% of my songs.
Bruh, every time Fat Joe tells a story, I gotta stop what I'm doing and just look at the camera like, ain't no way he said that with a straight face. Because this man don't just exaggerate. He be dropping full Marvel origin stories. 1 minute he turned down Eminem 6 times.
Yeah, Eminem, he gave me his demo like 6 times.
Next minute he fought a small army by himself.
I once robbed my whole gym, the whole gym. Like 70 kids without a gun.
Really?
Next minute, every hip-hop legend was calling him for advice. Like, bruh, when did you become the Forrest Gump of rap? But here's the part people don't want to admit. Fat Joe doesn't lie to be funny. He lies to stay relevant. He lies to stay close to greatness. He lies because the culture moves fast and he's scared of being forgotten. So today, we breaking down the myth of Fat Joe, the ego behind it, and why the lies keep getting bigger every year. Let's get into it. Fat Joe been building his own cinematic universe for decades. Every year the stories evolve like Pokemon under pressure. One day is I turned down Eminem. The next day is I turned him down 6 times. And give it another year, Joe gonna say he actually discovered Eminem in a cereal box or something.
And I was trying to get myself in the game, and Eminem apparently was giving me his demo. So years later, we sat down, we had dinner. It was me, him, and B Real from Cypress Hills. And he was like, yo, Joe, I'm going to tell you something. I was like, what? He's like, yo, I gave you my demo like 6 times. I was like, no!
Every story follows the same formula. Joe is either the hero, the victim, the mastermind, or the only real one in the room. It don't matter what era, what city, what timeline. Joe is always right at the center. And he tells the stories with that confident OG posture like he's reading classified documents. He leans back like, trust me, I was there. Were you? Because the math is math and funny, big bro. This isn't random. Joe wants a myth, a legacy, a story where he matters more than the facts ever said he did. And every time he retells a story, I swear it gains 5 extra pounds. And I comment on how Joe adds 5 new plot twists every time he opens his mouth. Let's talk about why he lies. Because this right here is where everything starts to make sense. Fat Joe came up surrounded by giants. Pun was a monster. Remy, a beast. Biggie, Pac, Jay, Nas. Those were titans. And Joe? He was never the most lyrical, never the most iconic, never the center of the culture. Living next to greatness can mess with your ego if you don't have the emotional backbone to accept your lane. Joe watched Pun create storms in the industry, watched legends shift the world, but Joe never hit that level. Hip-hop moves fast. If you don't evolve, it leaves you behind. And Joe reinvented himself, not musically, but narratively, through stories, through myth-making, through interviews where he transforms from participant to protagonist. These lies aren't coming from strength. They're coming from insecurity, from a fear of being a footnote instead of a chapter, from a fear that when you take Pun out of the story, Joe doesn't have much left to stand on.
Yeah. I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
Now let's get into the history rewrites, because this is where Joe becomes a full-time fiction author. One interview he turned down Eminem once. Another interview, 6 times. One interview, he fought a group of kids. Another interview, a whole neighborhood. Timeline switch, details shift, locations change. It's like watching a multiverse collide. Joe be everywhere at once. 1994, he's in the Bronx and Los Angeles at the same time. 1997, he's somehow connected to every major decision in hip-hop. Bruh, teleportation is crazy. The pattern is simple. Whenever Joe tells a story, he moves closer to the center of it. He upgrades his role, adds weight, adds importance, adds influence. Every time the cap grows, the legend grows. And I'm sitting here like, sir, the math is allergic to you. Now look, this isn't a big Pun documentary, but we gotta talk about the Pun chapter because it reveals more about Joe's character than any other story. Pun was Joe's ticket into real hip-hop history. Pun was a genius, and when Pun died, the myth-making from Joe got even heavier. Sometimes Joe paints himself as Pun's savior, sometimes as Pun's mentor, sometimes as the only one taking care of Pun's family.
He says, Joe, I'm broke, we got no money. I said, well, listen, people not going to feel sorry for you because you're Big Pun's wife forever. I'm going to get you some money. Now, what do you do? So she tells me, I like to do hair. I said, well, why don't you go to school for doing hair, and maybe you can open up 2-3 beauty salons and continue to support your family, because no one's going to continue to pay your bills because you're Big Pun's wife. She had hundreds of thousands of dollars. I thought I did the right thing, Cypher.
Right.
Like, I thought I did the right thing. She spent the money unwisely, right? She comes back and says, Joe, I'm doing bad again. We give her a check out of our pockets. We say, yo, we got to take care, because at the end of the day, Pun's my brother. I take care of over 30 people for the last 15 years. Like, 30 friends that they got to pay their family bills, they got to pay their rent, they got to pay whatever. Why wouldn't I take care of Pun's wife and Pun's kids? You understand?
Sometimes he says the exact opposite. The lawsuit, the settlement, the contradictions, they all reveal something deeper. Whenever the truth doesn't fit Joe's image, he adjusts the truth.
Joe was telling her that, oh no, he owed me money. You know what I'm saying? Then all of a sudden, a bunch of fake royalty statements started to come biannually saying, you know, you're in debt, you're in debt, you're in debt, you're in debt. And then for about 14 years, from about 2000 to 2014, fake royalty statements was coming out.
2000 to 2014?
Yeah, fake royalty statements were coming. The same stuff that they had, it probably took me like a minute and a half to see the deception. I called her up, told her I paid for the case, paid for the auditor, took him to court. You know, Joe was all over the radio basically saying, I gave her $750,000, I gave her $250,000. I told her, enough's enough. Everybody bought it and believed it. You know, he had the big platform. He could call Envy or all these other people and go in their radio station and be like, look, she's lying. And, you know, she can't do the same thing.
Why is it 20 years, how long, and you guys still haven't managed to really, like, settle, like, and he said that he wants just an apology. You can't do that? Like, as in...
Are you serious?
No, I'm asking you.
Why would I give him an apology after what he put my family through and what he did legally?
Was it legally? Like, how...
You know what? Can we stop this for a second?
Yeah.
I'm leaving this interview.
What?
Because this is like a whole Fat Joe situation now.
No.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good off of this.
The Pun situation shows how far Joe will bend history to protect his own legacy.
And then you know what else Joe did? This was crazy. So after, you know, we were trying to do a Big Pun movie and stuff like that, right? And basically, you know, we were like, hey, you know, let's get Joe involved. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to be bigger with Joe. If you do it without Joe, Joe can get all these other people involved and make it real big. That's truthful, you know what I'm saying? But he was basically saying like, well, if you go on Instagram or if you go out there and tell publicly that I never stole from you, then I'll work with you. Otherwise, I'm not working with you. She's like, why would I do that? You stole from me. You know what I'm saying? So he wanted her to change the story up. You know what I'm saying? So then if she did do that, now all people are going to be back on her ass in the DMs and telling you lie and all that other shit. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy, but I don't understand how people just let him lie.
Not because he's evil, but because real history doesn't place him as high as he wants to be. Now let's talk about Joe's wildest cap, the ones that feel like deleted scenes from Fast and Furious. Stories where he fights 30 dudes by himself.
I once robbed my whole gym, the whole gym. Like 70 kids without a gun. Like, yo, everybody give me your coats, give me your Walkmans, give me your this. Some of the kids I was actually cool with. And I was like, yo, run it. Everybody, run it. I couldn't even carry it. Some of the guys I robbed had to help me carry the stuff with them. Terrible.
Stories where he solves beefs nobody asked him to fix.
So what happened was East Coast, West Coast, Biggie's my man. And to be honest with you, you know, they would really, I want to use my words correctly. Let's just say the West Coast was like leaning on New York. Like really leaning on New York. Like hard. The pressure was legendary. And the New York rappers, you know, they just wasn't really coming back at them like that. And they was just violating, right? Doing crazy shit. I don't
Pound came in New York,
talk about all type of shit going on, right? And so I'm in the radio one day and they asked me the question, yo, Joe, what you think about Tupac and all that? I said, yo, he's cool, but, you know, if they step to me, It's gonna be some shit.
Stories where every legend secretly admired him the most. Stories where he was magically present at every major moment, even when the timeline says he wasn't in the country. Joe lies in 4K.
He's lying! He's lying! He's lying! He's lying! He's lying!
The physics ain't physicsing. The geography ain't geographying. It's like he lives in his own documentary that nobody else got invited to. These aren't small lies. These are lies used as currency. When Joe wants relevance, he caps. When he wants sympathy, he caps. When he wants a legendary moment, he caps. Cap is branding now. And before anybody jumps in the comments with the bro, that's just how old heads talk excuse, nah. Exaggeration is saying I beat him up instead of I shoved him. What Joe does is different. Joe be rewriting whole historical timelines like he working at the Library of Congress. Half the time, he puts himself in rooms he wasn't even allowed in. The other half, he puts himself in moments nobody remembered until he reminded him.
Did, but it never came out. And
Oh, really?
yeah, we did record. We was doing an album.
Was the song ever leaked or anything?
No, we did like 4 songs, but
You did 4 songs with Biggie that no one's ever heard.
never.
What the fuck?
I don't think you'll ever hear it.
Who's the producer?
If you do, you'll get upset.
Who's the producer?
It's Puff Daddy.
Okay, never mind.
So whatever. Yeah. So
I love Fat Joe, and Fat Joe is my guy. I love the Jada and Joe show, and now I know why they're running with the Joe's the king of cap. I'ma call cap without even knowing, right? Because I don't know for sure, right? But I'm calling cap. I'm calling cap that they're, because I would have, if there was a real legitimate album, I would have heard about that, right? And I wouldn't have heard about them doing songs together.
I don't think so. I'm sure I was around for a lot of stuff, and I didn't hear none of that at all. Shout out to my brother Fat Joe too, but maybe that's something he know. Maybe that's something I wasn't around for, but I didn't hear those records.
But him and Biggie was working on the album together, right?
They was talking about working on some stuff, but I don't recall no records getting recorded. I never heard none of them. You know what I mean? So I can't speak on that because I never heard the records.
He wants to put himself with the elites. He wants to be a tether. Isn't that what they say? The FBA says a tether. He wants to latch on to the legacy of Biggie now. He wants to latch on to the Biggie legacy.
And somehow, his version always includes danger, responsibility, wisdom, and at least one celebrity calling him for advice at 3 a.m. That's not storytelling. That's historical cosplay. And let's be honest, there's a reason Joe gets away with it. He talks like an uncle at the barbecue. Loud, confident, animated, and unbothered by facts. He got that "I've been outside longer than you've been alive" delivery that makes people scared to correct him. You ever notice how interviewers never push back? Joe will say something impossible like, "I actually taught Eminem how to rhyme multi-syllables." And the interviewer's like, "Wow, that's crazy, bro. Tell me more." It's because challenging Joe feels like disrespecting hip hop. And a lot of people would rather let the lie float than hold the OG accountable. Another thing people don't talk about, Joe got comfortable lying because real life ain't give him the moments he wanted. Pun had the genius. Remy had the power. Terror Squad had the movement. But Joe was the glue, not the star. And there's nothing wrong with that. Every crew needs glue, but glue don't get documentaries. And that's where the ego kicks in. Imagine spending your whole career around legends, knowing deep down that you're not one. Some people accept that. Some people get bitter. Joe decided to craft a legend in real time, piece by piece, interview by interview. A lie doesn't feel like a lie when it fills a hole you've been ignoring. And let's talk about this too. Fat Joe is a master at using tragedy as a narrative shield. Whenever things get tight, Joe goes into the same pocket. I've been through so much.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
I seen things you could never understand, and that makes people back off. It's a Jedi mind trick. Wrap the lie inside emotional vulnerability so nobody questions it. But vulnerability without honesty is manipulation, and that's the part people ignore because Joe says it with a calm OG voice. And look, I know some of y'all are defending him because he's entertaining. Bro, so is WWE. So are magic tricks. So are conspiracy theories. Entertainment don't make it factual.
That's a fact.
And hip hop got enough fabricated stories already. We don't need ASMR cap sessions from Joe on top of that.
I've been rapping professionally for 30 years. I've lied in almost 95% of my songs. I'm being honest. Lied.
Lied how? What do you
just
mean?
go. I write like I feel that day. I'm just being creative. You know, if you could probably you couldn't build the jail high enough for the lyrics I've said on songs, which are all untrue. What I am is a family man, the person who gives back to my community all the time, open businesses in my community. So the music would never amount to the actual person, Joseph Carter Jr.
Long ago, Fat Joe came out and said he lied in 95% of his rhymes. What did you think of that?
He told the truth for the first time, that he's a liar, that you can't believe nothing that comes out of his mouth. He's a liar.
I say, yo, 95% of the stuff I say ain't true. Letting them know. Like, if you could think Rico Love is on here is one of the greatest songwriters ever made. You know, the album that Usher sold 10 million, everything, Rico Love wrote that. There's no way Rico could tell me every word was real, because it's not. We move off of inspiration. And so we get inspired, and then one day I'll go to the studio, I'm mad. So I write some fuck the police. One day I'm happy with the family, I go in the studio and I write about love and peace and tranquility. And then I write some gangster shit. You know, what I'm explaining to you, putting myself on CNN, on the hot seat for hip-hop culture and hip-hop music. And I had to say 95% of what I say is a lie so that they could understand that it's unfair to try some kids.
Here's something deeper though. Joe tells lies that always make him look better, but he never tells lies that make other people look better. You ever notice that? He never says Pun saved me. He never says Remy carried the crew. He never says I was struggling while someone else was shining. It's always him as the hero, the conductor, the survivor, the mastermind. That's not normal OG behavior. That's insecurity disguised as authority. And let's talk about how he uses timing to upgrade his stories. The older the event, the bigger his role becomes. In 2003, he was close to the situation. In 2010, he helped guide the situation. In 2020, he orchestrated the situation. And in 2030, he gonna say, I was the situation. That's not memory, that's strategy. And bro, these street stories, Joe makes it sound like he was fighting the entire YMCA on a Tuesday night. Every story is 30 on 1, 40 on 1, 50 on 1, like he was playing Dynasty Warriors in real life. How every story involve an army? Why he never fought like 2 people? Why the body count always sound like a Call of Duty lobby? It's because Joe is obsessed with scale. Small stories don't make you legendary. Mythical stories do. And Joe been chasing mythical energy his whole career. Let's go even deeper. Joe's lies follow trauma patterns. People who feel overshadowed inflate their reality. People who feel insecure reframe events to regain control. People who fear being forgotten exaggerate to stay visible. Joe lies to survive the version of himself he's afraid to face. That's not comedy. That's psychology. And here's something else wild. Joe lies about the past because the present isn't exciting enough. When the music slowed down, when the hits stopped coming, when Pun passed, when the crew changed, Joe filled the silence with storylines. He stayed relevant through interviews instead of albums. When the art slows down, the myth speeds up. So here's the final truth. This ain't just about Fat Joe lying. This is about what hip-hop allows. We treat OG confidence like a free pass. We don't fact-check legends. We don't challenge their stories. We just let the myth breathe. Joe lies because he's scared. Scared of fading, scared of being overshadowed forever by Pun, scared of being remembered as the guy next to greatness instead of greatness itself. And if nobody checks that cap, it becomes culture. It becomes folklore. And folklore becomes history for people who weren't there. This isn't about disrespecting Joe. It's about protecting the truth, protecting the real contributors, protecting the culture from revisionism disguised as storytelling. Drop a comment telling me which Fat Joe story had you saying, nah, bruh. And if you like this video, you'll probably like the one that just popped up on your screen now. Click now, and I'll see you there. Panda out.